The opening segment reveals a deeply personal letter exchange between siblings. The writer expresses concern about their sibling who is experiencing health issues and searching for help. They acknowledge the fading memory of their sibling's face and offer support while keeping their situation private from their father as requested. The letter continues with warnings about miracle workers and preachers who may take advantage of desperate people. However, they remain hopeful that help can be found, even if not immediately visible. The letter concludes with expressions of love and concern for the siblings' safety. A man named Viktor Shulsky visits a telegram office to send a message to his sister in Warsaw, Russia. He appears unwell but manages to compose a brief message indicating he may have found someone who can help him. The telegram ends with an affectionate note to his sister. Viktor catches a ride to a nearby village with a local coachman. The village is described as a simple place with only a station, the village itself, and a cemetery. The coachman mentions a healer who has been staying there for months, likely to be found praying at the tavern. Upon arriving at the village, Viktor encounters some hostile locals who demand his boots and coat as donations for the Tsar's army. The situation becomes tense as it becomes clear they are more likely thieves than actual soldiers. Viktor finally meets Grigory Yefimovich Rasputin. Their initial interaction is tense, with Rasputin being skeptical of Viktor's intentions. Viktor reveals he is a thaumaturge, magic practitioner, seeking help for his condition. Rasputin challenges Viktor to prove his abilities. Viktor explains his predicament to Rasputin. He lost contact with his familiar spirit after trying to catch a wild one, and now his powers are fading. He fears losing his grip on reality and falling into madness. Rasputin agrees to try helping him, though unsure if he can. Rasputin attempts to help Viktor through a spiritual session. During this process, Viktor experiences intense visions, including confrontations with his father and revelations about his own pride and weaknesses. The session reveals deeper layers of Viktor's psychological struggles. Viktor discovers the presence of an unbound Sanitar, spirit, in the village, suggesting someone nearby has a supernatural affliction attracting it. This revelation leads him to investigate further, though his attempts to gather information are met with resistance from suspicious villagers. A tense confrontation unfolds at someone's doorstep, with unwanted visitors being told to leave. The situation escalates into a dispute over stolen items, specifically a pendant that belonged to someone's mother, and a conflict about a strangled goose. The accused denies caring about any stolen trinkets. The scene shifts to a more civil conversation indoors where someone is seeking help and guidance. The discussion reveals the village residents are described as superstitious and easily controlled, though this assessment is challenged as hypocritical. The conversation turns to a supernatural presence in the village called Vukovac, an evil spirit that torments people by exploiting their weaknesses. It appears during tragedies and when impure thoughts are present. Someone claims they can potentially remove this spirit. The discussion moves to a cemetery where people are praying for Vasily's soul. It's revealed that Vasily was the village elder whose death by fire left the community suffering. The village believes his death brought a curse and attracted a monster that howls at night. The village atmosphere has deteriorated since the elder's death. People have become short-tempered and confrontational. Simple disagreements escalate quickly into fights. The community is struggling to cope with the tragedy, though some suggest it's not necessarily due to dark forces. The conversation delves into technical explanations about flaws in human souls and creatures called salutors, from Latin meaning newcomer. These beings are attracted to people's inner flaws and can be used by skilled practitioners called Thaumaturges, who can detect and manipulate these spiritual wounds. An investigation of the burned house reveals dark secrets. The owner was alive during the fire, suggesting murder rather than accident. The fire appears to have been used to cover up the crime. A doll is discovered that might help identify what really happened. The scene suddenly shifts to a confrontation with some men claiming to be from the Tsar's army, demanding donations. A tense situation develops, suggesting potential violence, with one person demonstrating they are stronger than they appear. The investigation reveals traces left behind by Vesna and her husband Lucas at Vasilis' farmstead. It's noted that Lucas deeply loves his wife, raising questions about whether this love might have motivated murder. A tense interaction occurs at a door where someone requests to discuss a husband. The visitor reveals they are a Thaumaturge who found an item near a burned farmhouse. After some hesitation, they learn the husband is chopping wood in a forest clearing with others. The search for whoever is attracting the Vukovac concludes. Luca is identified as the culprit. Plans are made to catch a Thaumaturge despite the risks involved. A confrontation with Luca begins to unfold. An intense confrontation reveals Luca was responsible for bringing the Thaumaturge to the village after Vasilis' death. The Salita is causing fear and aggression in the villagers. When accused of murder, Luca admits to the killing and shows no remorse. After a chaotic scene, someone faces angry lumberjacks with axes. Luca is confronted about killing Vasily and bringing evil to the village. The crowd turns hostile, calling for severe punishment. The situation is diffused when Luca and Vesna are told to leave the village. At a train station, a confused traveler asks about trains to Albuquerque, only to learn they are an ocean away from their destination. The scene shifts to someone attempting to send telegrams to Warsaw and Paris after receiving news about their father. A deep conversation occurs about recent events, including hallucinations and a father's death. The discussion turns to prophecies and visions of violence, including graphic scenes of conflict and bloodshed. Someone realizes they can potentially change these future events. The train arrives in Warsaw. The city is experiencing significant unrest with workers' strikes, violent suppressions, and Socialist Party activities. Despite the negative news, some see hope in the situation. The travelers discuss lodging arrangements upon arrival. A large crowd gathers in Warsaw for a circus. The new governor-general makes a divisive speech targeting various groups and promising harsh measures. This leads to tensions between Polish locals and Russian authorities. A potentially violent situation develops, requiring careful navigation. A tense discussion occurs about potential strategies for dealing with an oppressive situation. There is debate about whether to take direct action against authority figures or find diplomatic solutions. The conversation suggests resistance against some form of control or leadership that the participants find problematic. The scene shifts to what appears to be a holding cell or prison setting. Viktor Shulsky identifies himself while interacting with other detainees. The atmosphere is rough, with crude discussions about bathroom etiquette and confrontational exchanges between inmates. Some share stories about past conflicts with Russian soldiers. Mordechai Hayat offers condolences regarding Mr. Shulsky's death, inquiring about the cause which involved nitroglycerin heart medication. The conversation reveals this is taking place at a funeral or memorial setting. The interactions are brief but respectful. An emotional family reunion occurs as Victor meets his sister. She expresses relief at his arrival after sending a telegram. They discuss their mother's absence and upcoming matters, including their father's will reading. The conversation reveals some family tension and estrangement. At his father's funeral, Victor delivers an intense monologue, revealing deep-seated family conflicts. He confronts his deceased father's flaws, including his treatment of family members and inability to accept responsibility. The speech touches on past dreams and current achievements, marking a final goodbye. A mysterious figure named Ivan Kanichkin appears at the funeral, claiming to know everything about Victor's father. The brief but tense exchange suggests underlying complications and possible future encounters, despite Victor's stated plans to leave town quickly. The scene transitions to a house where a lawyer awaits for the will reading. The housekeeper warmly welcomes Victor, noting his resemblance to his father. Family members gather, including cousin Petya, revealing past incidents and current tensions as they prepare to address legal matters. A somber conversation takes place about not attending a funeral due to discomfort with cemeteries. The scene transitions to a gathering where drinks are being served. The attendees discuss a special amber liqueur with quinces that belong to Stasios. A nephew named Victor is asked to search the basement for a specific bottle. Victor returns from his search in the basement. The group makes a toast to Stasio and discusses his death, though the specific details are avoided to preserve happier memories. There is reflection on lost loved ones, including someone named Helena. The mood is melancholic as they prepare for the reading of the will. The official will reading begins. Ligia Shutska is named executrix. The will stipulates that personal items be auctioned with proceeds going to cemetery beggars. The family enterprise is left to Ligia's administration. Alexander Voronin receives a collection of mascots and revolvers. Notably, nothing is left to Nadia Fedorovna. Victor inherits only his father's black grimoire. A complication arises regarding the grimoire. It has gone missing. It is revealed that Stasio died when a building collapsed on him in Shudmitsha, near the police station. The grimoire was reportedly with him at the time of death and was used to identify him. The scene shifts to discussion about a family portrait and unresolved family tensions. The search for the grimoire begins. Potential leads are discussed, including Ivan Kanichkin and Mordecai Chayat, though neither seems promising. The scene shifts outdoors where memories of the last conversation with the deceased father are recalled, including a loan shark incident that keeps appearing in nightmares. A telephone conversation occurs between Victor and Grigory. Grigory has found lodging near the cemetery at 7 Povaskar Street in Warsaw. The technology of the telephone is noted as remarkable and new to the characters. The scene focuses on Ligia discussing business challenges, particularly regarding gender discrimination in running the company. She mentions needing a Thaumaturge, someone with powers, to gain respect. The conversation concludes with observations about women's fashion, specifically trousers, marking changing times in the 20th century. A playful conversation reveals childhood memories between siblings, including how one used to avoid tobacco smoke in their father's study, but eventually grew accustomed to it. The discussion shows their different relationships with their father, with one being less rebellious than the other Thaumaturge's son. The conversation turns to searching for someone named Svetlana Romianseva, who stays at the Imperial Hotel. She hosts exclusive soirees for high society. An invitation is arranged to attend together, which requires proper evening attire. A tailor recommendation is made at 11 Prusna Street. A visit to an unusually quiet barber reveals he also styles hair for the deceased, noting that people only get one funeral in their lifetime. The barber demonstrates skill and leaves the client satisfied with the result. A quick visit to a tailor for evening wear occurs. The customer provides their name and address as Rosholsky, 9 Green Square, and arrangements are made for alterations and delivery. The siblings prepare for the soiree, complimenting each other's appearance while acknowledging the awkward timing of attending a party so soon after their father's funeral. They discuss the importance of maintaining their family name. Upon arrival at the Imperial Hotel, they are directed to apartment 237 for the soiree. The scene is described as entering a viper's nest, with attendees waiting for any social missteps. The siblings temporarily separate. Overheard conversations reveal social dynamics and gossip, including discussions about romantic interests and social status. A confrontation is narrowly avoided after overhearing disrespectful comments about a sister. Social interactions continue with introductions to several high society women, including the governor's daughter. The protagonist reveals their identity as a thaumaturge, sparking curiosity among the guests. A secret exchange occurs where information about young ladies attending, without their father's knowledge, becomes valuable social currency. The event includes plans for a medium's appearance. An intriguing conversation develops regarding mysterious scars and family inheritance, revealing tensions and strategic social positioning among the attendees. At an elegant social gathering, several notable guests were present, including Ivan Kanichkin, who apparently knew the protagonist's father. The atmosphere was filled with intrigue, as debutantes were expected to attend, including the highly anticipated arrival of Sophia Cowan. The competitive nature of the social scene was highlighted with warnings about moving quickly to make connections. A discussion about life at the Tsar's court revealed it to be both a blessing and a curse. The conversation turned personal when Konichkin was identified as a former customer of the protagonist's deceased father. Condolences were offered, though attempts to learn more about the father were deflected with offers of vodka and invitations to Madame Samira's events. An attempt at thaumaturgy revealed something unusual was present, though the exact nature remained unclear. The magical detection seemed to fail initially, leading to confusion and uncertainty about what was being sensed. Victor Schultes was introduced as the protagonist's brother. A tense exchange followed, with discussion about the family business and fortune. The conversation took an uncomfortable turn, with allegations about marital infidelity and questions about sanity, demonstrating strained family relationships. The conversation shifted to discussing Svetlana, who was apparently withholding information. Ligia expressed distrust of her, calling her a schemer. A shocking revelation emerged about their father having an affair with the party host, which caused obvious discomfort. Svetlana and Victor had a private conversation where she confirmed the affair with his father, describing it as two lonely people finding comfort. She revealed connections to the Okhrana secret police and discussed political tensions, suggesting the empire was on the brink of major changes. The party transitioned into a séance atmosphere with dimmed lights and drawn curtains. Selected guests received tarot cards as invitations to participate in a secret ritual meant to commune with the souls of the dead. The evening continues with an invitation to play Truth or Dare, revealing the social dynamics and tensions among the younger guests. The game was proposed as a way to uncover secrets, particularly those of companions named Irina, Maxim, and Sergei, using the protagonist's special abilities. A conversation unfolds about Maxim being interested in Miss Irina. While Miss Irina wants to get to know Maxim better, she appears hesitant. The discussion shifts to an interaction with Mr. Shulsky, who reveals his heart is already taken, disappointing someone who expected a different response. The scene involves Sophia Skowan, who initially appeared innocent but may have ulterior motives. There are hints of tension between old Skowan and Thaumaturge, with plans to investigate Sophia's true intentions through either her scheming or her protective knight. A séance begins with participants placing their hands on a table. The medium guides them to free their minds and make contact with spirits. This leads to rising tensions and talk of a potential duel, showing how the spiritual session takes an unexpected turn toward conflict. The situation becomes clearer regarding Sophia Skowan, who is meant to have something removed discreetly. The failed plan results in her becoming the center of a scandal, with concerns about potential future consequences for everyone involved. A phone call occurs between Victor and Uncle Sasha, discussing changes in the city and a request for help with a delicate matter. They arrange to meet at a place from their past where they used to have dinner, suggesting both nostalgia and urgent business to discuss. Someone urgently requests entry, claiming they need to see Rasputin, who is in the drawing room. This leads to an intriguing situation that appears to have significant implications. An introduction takes place between Anilna Nadachinska and Viktor Shulsky. The conversation touches on a funeral and moves to a private discussion about troubling visions. An intense focus session follows, dealing with taming something remarkable but challenging. The narrative shifts to a nostalgic conversation about childhood memories involving Victor, Ligia, and Petya at their favorite square, particularly about their experiences buying dinats with different fillings. The mood changes when a serious incident at the Imperial Hotel is brought up. The conversation reveals a tragic incident where a boy fell to his death from a balcony at the Imperial Hotel. The Warsaw Courier is already covering the story, and there's concern about Petya's connection to the event, though he's confirmed to be fine. The balcony is revealed to be part of Petya's apartment. After his mother's Helena's death, the relationship between father and son has been strained. The father admits he may not have given enough attention to his son while focusing on work. The discussion turns to Ludwig Krajewski, who recently died. The Krajewskis are not wealthy, which makes Petya's friendship with Ludwig unusual. The father wants to understand the connection between his son and Ludwig's death, expressing concern about potential untrue press coverage affecting both families. At the Imperial Hotel, a conversation with Mr. Shulsky reveals complaints about noisy gatherings in Petya's room 213. The hotel staff seems bothered by these regular parties and mentions some guests have left because of the disturbances. Inside Petya's room, a tense encounter occurs with Petya's friends Thomas and France. When questioned about recent events, Petya becomes defensive and attempts to have his cousin removed from the room, showing clear resistance to any investigation into recent events. Petya finally opens up about Ludwig's death. During a party with drinking and cigars, Ludwig got drunk, went onto the balcony saying he wanted to get higher, then fell to his death. Petya expresses concern about protecting both his father's reputation and the Krajewski family. Meeting with Zygmunt Krajewski, Ludwig's father, reveals tension about Petya's influence on Ludwig. Krajewski suggests Petya only befriended Ludwig to appear charitable to others. The family faces financial struggles and pressure from news reporters seeking stories about Ludwig's death. Further investigation uncovers Hannah, Ludwig's girlfriend, who visited after his death. The conversation with Krajewski becomes more intense when his wife's illness is mentioned, leading to a monetary arrangement to keep the press away from the story. The investigation leads to a local establishment where attempts to ask about Hannah are met with hostility. The situation becomes tense when locals are called to stop the questioning about Hannah, suggesting there might be more to uncover about her connection to the story. A tense confrontation occurs at work involving Victor investigating a death at the Imperial Hotel. The discussion centers around Ludwig, who fell from a balcony. Miss Hanya claims not to remember anything about the incident initially, but eventually opens up about what really happened. The weight of holding on to an important contract becomes unbearable. After some persuasion, the truth comes out. Ludwig and Peter were drunk and made a bet. Ludwig would walk on a railing for money from Peter. The contract serves as proof of Peter's guilt in the incident. A conversation between an uncle and nephew takes place about recent events. The nephew reveals the truth about Petya and Ludwig's bet that led to tragedy. A contract exists proving Petya's involvement. The uncle must decide what to do with this evidence. Drama unfolds at a cemetery where people are being prevented from entering. Inside, Mr. Shulsky receives concerning news about vandalism affecting family graves and bizarre occurrences of bodies appearing moved from their resting places overnight. A confrontation occurs with suspected temperamancers, magic practitioners, who have been causing destruction at the cemetery. Despite seeing some artistic vision in their work, the destruction of expensive grave engravings cannot be allowed to continue. Investigation of the cemetery disturbances continues with the use of thaumaturge, magical detection. Something significant is discovered, though its exact nature remains mysterious at this point in the events. The investigation reveals connections to an anti-thaumaturge society known as WAS. Their members have been causing trouble near the cemetery walls since a specific burial took place. Information about grave robbers and mysteriously moving corpses comes to light. There are discussions of strange occurrences in the community, people feeling tired, livestock getting sick, and milk spoiling. These events are blamed on tempermancy and black magic. Claims emerge that the dead are rising from graves, possibly signaling apocalyptic events. A confrontational encounter begins at what appears to be an office location. A tempermancer, magic user, arrives and is immediately met with hostility from members of the Warsaw Anti-Thaumaturge Society, WOKS. The society members view the tempermancer with deep suspicion and contempt, calling them an enemy of humankind and ruiner of children's happiness. A heated debate erupts about supernatural occurrences, particularly regarding the dead rising from graves. The tempermancer suggests grave robbers are responsible, but society members dismiss this as conspiracy theories. The situation escalates as they call for action against the tempermancer, inviting others to join them for coffee and pastries afterwards. The leader identifies himself as Włodzimierz Konieczny, chairman of the Warsaw Anti-Thaumaturge Society. The tempermancer explains their mission to deal with vampires and fanatics, but finds no vampires present. This leads to Konieczny ordering the society's initiates to capture the tempermancer. A violent confrontation unfolds, where the tempermancer defends themselves, which the society members use as proof of their dangerous nature. They warn others to cover their ears to avoid mental manipulation, while continuing to portray the tempermancer as a threat to humanity. The scene shifts to a cemetery, where the aftermath is discussed with a gravedigger. The WAS has been dealt with and will no longer cause problems. The gravedigger attempts to solicit a donation for cemetery maintenance, but is unsuccessful, leading to subtle warnings about remembering this stinginess in death. The narrative takes a reflective turn, revealing childhood memories. These include early manifestations of magical abilities, particularly an incident in church where accidental contact with a priest led to unintended mind reading, and the exposure of private confessions, which had serious consequences for multiple families. A significant childhood memory emerges involving family dynamics and class distinctions. A young tempermancer asks to bring a servant named Baurizi on vacation, but their father refuses, delivering a stern lesson about family loyalty and the importance of keeping both friends and enemies close, especially given their magical abilities. The story explores family tensions around a planned trip to the Baltic Sea. The protagonist preferred staying in Prague to play with Abery, rather than attempting to repair family relationships. This segment reveals early signs of magical influence through a twin bond, though questions remain about the exact nature of these early powers. A casual conversation begins with people killing time. Some individuals are evaluating and rating someone on their appearance, giving them a solid 8 out of 10. The interaction has a flirtatious yet slightly tense undertone as they discuss the person's appearance and demeanor. A poignant reflection on a father's death is shared, noting how it seemed to catch him at an inconvenient moment when he still had unfinished business. The scene shifts as someone is tied up and woken up roughly, leading to a confrontation between old acquaintances with shared history in Paris. A tense exchange reveals past grievances between two individuals, with accusations about responsibility for a father's death and ending up on the street. The conflict centers around a stolen pistol incident from their youth, with both acknowledging their roles but disagreeing on who bears more responsibility. An interruption occurs during an important meeting, leading to a confrontation with some Cossacks. The situation escalates into a physical altercation, with one party claiming to have a demon master on their side and challenging the others to show their fighting skills. The scene transitions to Nyajit's bar, where old friendships are tested over drinks. Pure Polish liquor is served as they attempt to reconcile past differences. However, it's clear that not all scores are settled, with one party suggesting there's still unfinished business between them. The conversation shifts to supernatural elements as someone mentions thaumaturgical work and the presence of a salutaire. The bar owner, initially concerned about a demon in the establishment, quickly sees it as a business opportunity and decides to rename the place the Demon's Den. A candid discussion reveals years of difficult work and morally questionable actions, including making people disappear. The speaker acknowledges their father wouldn't have been proud of their choices. The conversation concludes with the discovery of suspicious items, dirty water, and a blood-soaked rag, hinting at darker activities in the establishment. A tense conversation takes place about violence and bullets in the area. The casual way dangerous situations are discussed suggests this is a rough neighborhood where shootings and property damage are common occurrences. A broken window incident involving a Russian person is mentioned, highlighting the volatile atmosphere. The discussion shifts to a heartwarming story about a puppy found under a bar. Despite the tough environment, there is still room for compassion. The Cossacks are described as especially violent, viewing fighting and death as entertainment, though some prefer less lethal confrontations. The puppy, named Romeo, eventually ran away and presumably started a family. The conversation returns to darker topics, with mentions of frequent deaths occurring about 3 times monthly. A particularly dangerous incident is described involving a Cossack named Danyas who wanted to play Russian roulette. This reveals the reckless and life-threatening behavior that occurs regularly in this setting. Talk turns to someone called Lelek, described as having bird-like qualities and an attraction to death and dangerous behavior. The group decides to search for Lelek, suggesting they might find him in philosophical gathering places while experiencing the gritty nightlife of Warsaw. A bizarre scene unfolds, with people fighting a lamppost, demonstrating the chaotic nature of the neighborhood. When law enforcement attempts to intervene, different rules are cited for the bar district, indicating a zone where normal laws may not apply. The setting shifts to a more intellectual space, where poetry and philosophy are discussed. A deep conversation about personal identity emerges, touching on themes of demons, madness, and violence versus artistic expression. The authenticity of friendship is questioned, suggesting complex relationships between the characters. The group encounters a private party situation, but manages to gain entry through strategic social manipulation. This shows how connections and smooth talking can override formal restrictions in this environment. The narrative focuses on Danyas' emotional state following a broken engagement. His reckless behavior is attributed to heartbreak, though there are hints of deeper issues. His popularity with women is noted, despite his tendency to leave relationships unresolved. The story of Pasha emerges, revealing a tragic incident involving Russian roulette with Danyas. The discussion of Pasha's sword suggests deep emotional connections. Danyas' recent behavior, including his musical preferences focusing on death and romance, indicates ongoing emotional turmoil. A tense confrontation begins between some individuals discussing blood brothers and past relationships. The atmosphere is charged with hostility as threats are exchanged about not trying any funny business. Someone mentions finding a private letter that belongs to another person, leading to more aggressive exchanges. The situation escalates into a dangerous game of Russian roulette. The participants show bravado and machismo as they prepare to play with a revolver containing 6 chambers and 1 bullet. There are references to someone named Pasha and past events, creating an undercurrent of unresolved history between the players. An emotional revelation occurs as someone confesses their love for Pasha, admitting their own mistakes led to losing their loved one. This triggers heated reactions from others present, with some wanting to defend honor and others trying to keep peace. The Ataman asserts authority over the situation. It's revealed the Russian roulette game was actually rigged. A conversation follows about catching someone described as a little sprat, with discussions about fate and decision-making. The night continues with drinking vodka as participants try to process the evening's intense events. The scene shifts to the aftermath of heavy drinking, with someone waking up confused in front of their house. Ligia appears and confronts them about their behavior. There are discussions about money, loans, and a gold watch belonging to Stanisław. The action moves to someone urgently seeking Rasputin. Upon meeting, they discuss hunting for cellulars, and Rasputin expresses concern about the person losing themselves in this pursuit. A hypnotic session follows where they try to locate someone through their song. After a long sleep-like state, there are discussions about visions of the future, including ominous images of battlefields, strange beings, and a sinking ship with thousands aboard. The conversation then turns to a woman named Svetlana, who has been causing trouble in town. A tense confrontation unfolds as someone is being accused and questioned, with repeated demands to shut up and threats about discovering something hidden. The atmosphere is hostile and confrontational, with multiple voices speaking in quick succession. A discussion reveals someone is being pursued and threatened through letters, possibly connected to a scandal involving a governor's daughter named Sophia. Despite claims of innocence, the situation seems serious enough to warrant fleeing the country, specifically to Vienna from Warsaw. A plan is made for temporary safety with the Nadajinskis, while arrangements are made for escape. The person insists on bringing their travel chest and requests an escort to feel more secure. Before proceeding, they need to make a stop at the London bar. At what appears to be a gambling establishment, there's a scene involving a debtor who owes 12 rubles from horse race betting. A third party offers to cover the debt, leading to a discussion over coffee about helping someone disappear from Warsaw. The conversation reveals various options for getting someone out of Warsaw, ranging from legitimate transport to darker alternatives. A smuggler named Javier is suggested as the best option, known for smuggling socialists and contraband, including explosives hidden in books. Information is shared about finding Javier through Foreman Romek in the Pavichna district, but with warnings about the neighborhood's hostility to outsiders. The area is described as home to fishermen, porters, and craftsmen who are protective of their own. The scene shifts to a place called the Dungeon, described as a center for gambling and violence. A fighting ring is mentioned, with someone named Baristic, who takes on multiple opponents as part of a local tradition. A newcomer is introduced to this underground fighting scene. The scene involves negotiations to arrange a meeting with Javier through participation in a fight. Despite initial confusion about being a magician in the ring, the protagonist agrees to fight in exchange for conducting business with Javier afterward, though plans suddenly change at the last moment. A discussion begins about Barshik and involves Marcel and his brother-in-law, as well as Victor Shorsky, who is described as a magician. The conversation has an uncertain tone with frequent pauses and hesitations. The crowd expresses antagonistic feelings, with mentions of the Chicos from Fifth Ally potentially causing trouble for Victor. There are encouraging calls for Victor to prove himself, followed by questions about who will be next. The Gordon sisters from America are introduced with much fanfare, described as boxing with incredible speed and skill. There is tension as someone warns about not riling them up further, though the response indicates this is for professional purposes, leading to an agreement to fight. A meeting occurs with Javier Sanchez regarding smuggling arrangements. A request is made to help transport a high society lady from the Russian partition to Vienna. Javier expresses concern about the risks, but agrees to help, setting up a nighttime meeting at Port Praga. An encounter with someone who recognizes Victor Shulsky as coming from a famous family of tempermancers. Despite Victor's initial disinterest, he is challenged to a duel for the title of King of the Tempermancers. The challenge leads to an immediate confrontation. The Tempermancer duel concludes with Victor accepting the title, though his opponent warns this is only temporary and promises future confrontations. Victor expresses some concern about these strange encounters. Victor Shulsky arrives seeking Grigory Rasputin in a drawing room. A conversation follows about the Nadezhinskis and their boring nature compared to Grigory. Someone expresses desire to leave the location quickly. A smuggling operation is discussed in detail. The plan involves obtaining Austrian papers and traveling by boat, then taking a steamship upriver before transferring to a Vienna-bound train in Krakow. Police presence causes some concern due to a stolen weapons transport. Payment negotiations occur, with an offer of an entire fortune and appropriate paperwork upon departure. The discussion includes concerns about transporting a travel chest, which is deemed absolutely necessary to the operation. A fragmented discussion begins about disrespecting marriage, with incomplete and broken sentences indicating some kind of emotional distress or confusion in the conversation. A woman named Sonora expresses gratitude to Victor for risking his life to help her. She reveals information about Victor's father, who is apparently a Polish patriot working secretly to build a force of people with special abilities to help fight for Polish independence. A dramatic scene unfolds involving a golem, a supernatural creature from Jewish folklore. The golem is described as following blood and poses a deadly threat. Someone warns that the golem will pursue its targets until their blood is lost. The only way to stop it is to understand why it was sent. A tense confrontation occurs involving someone named Vanya with a pistol. The discussion centers around locating Svetlana Petrovna, who is revealed to be a person who collected compromising material against the Tsar's government. There are implications that she was considered a traitor. A mysterious conversation takes place between Victor and someone who has been waiting with his sister. They discuss Svetlana's death, which was caused by the golem collapsing a pier. The person suggests they have important secrets from Svetlana that could expose some truth about human annihilation. There is a discussion about Rasputin and his unexpected visit. Someone expresses concern about strange visitors, including ladies of the night hanging around outside windows. The conversation involves questions about a thaumaturge and potential revenge motives. There are discussions about close friends and a revelation about a dangerous golem from Jewish legends that attacked at Port Praga, destroying half the port while targeting someone specifically. The topic shifts to Svetlana, who was trying to flee the country and met an unfortunate end when the golem appeared. This news causes significant distress as there are concerns about potential imprisonment. Reassurances are made that nothing bad will happen. The conversation turns to a secret police chief and their involvement. There are hints about unusual experiences living with a thaumaturge, and questions arise about how long they have known the chief who works for the Ochrana. A discussion about relationships and connections reveals that the chief has been helpful in business matters, arranging contacts and inviting people to social events. It is mentioned that Papa introduced them years ago. The conversation becomes tense when discussing a meeting at Port Prago and possible connections to the Golem and a deceased lady in waiting. This leads to someone needing space alone to process the information. The scene shifts to an emotional confrontation about family danger, blood curses, and questions about why a Golem is pursuing their bloodline. There are accusations about letting someone named Konyechkin into their home and working as an informant. The next morning brings coffee and apologies for previous outbursts. The conversation turns to practical matters and dealing with obstacles ahead, including possibly making a deal with Konyechkin despite reservations. Strange phenomena related to the Golem are discussed, including an incident with a horse that died mysteriously. Concerns about personal safety arise, leading to discussions about searching Father's office for answers. Dreams about Father are shared, ranging from comforting to disturbing. The dreams are described as realistic visions where questions are asked but answers remain unclear. The conversation shifts to focusing on real-life matters. The scene moves to a store in Maruf, where changes in ownership and business practices are discussed. Old photographs reveal past relationships and raise questions about potential motives for Father's death. The discussion turns to a flying university, an informal and secret educational initiative, particularly important for women denied legal education. An invitation is extended to attend a lecture about economic aspects of women's issues. The conversation ends on a lighter note with talk about bringing donuts to the university meeting, specifically debating about cherry-filled ones being the best. Plans are made to pick up the treats from Mrs. Jagoda. At a laundry facility, a tense confrontation occurs when someone is warned about snooping around where they do not belong. They are told that Nirov does not associate with such people and are advised to find another laundry service. There are reports of destruction at the Praga harbor, with the wharf in pieces and multiple bodies being discovered. The damage is unusually extensive compared to typical incidents. Rumors suggest a giant creature may be responsible for the destruction. A conversation reveals past connections between Mr. Shulsky and someone who previously worked with his father. The discussion touches on Mr. Shulsky Sr.'s death in the ruins of a building in Shrewd Misha, with underlying tension about their past relationship and unresolved conflicts. Old grudges are discussed, with cryptic references to stains on honor and potential revenge. The conversation turns to golems, with one party denying the ability to summon them while acknowledging such possibilities exist. A heated discussion about repair work reveals ongoing issues with leaking roofs and crumbling foundations. Someone promised repairs within 2 months but failed to deliver, leading to frustration about continuous water damage and the upcoming neopchadimis to constantly empty buckets. A meeting with Rabbi Feldman reveals that Rabbi Sofer passed away almost a year ago. The conversation involves discussion of worldly matters and potential assistance with workers, using a marketplace analogy about temptation. The discussion turns to golems and Kabbalah, with warnings about their forbidden nature and dangers to the soul. Tales of golems being summoned for revenge or protection are mentioned, though all supposedly end badly. A curse potentially affecting multiple generations is discussed. Important information about golems is shared, including how they are summoned using Hebrew letters spelling truth, emet, and can be stopped by erasing the first letter, leaving met, death. The conversation includes warnings about the spiritual dangers of pursuing such knowledge. The discussion mentions Mordechai Hayat, a local laundry owner, and Abraham Horowitz, a now-deceased pharmacist who provided special medicine to Rabbi Sofer. The pharmacist's death is attributed to either socialists or Okrana involvement. A heated discussion reveals that old Sofer sent a golem to seek revenge for Abraham Horowitz's death, which deeply affected the community. The Jewish community values equality, suggesting the punishment was justified given the circumstances. The conversation highlights tensions between different factions within the community. The golem's destructive nature is revealed. It caused a building collapse on Stanisław, killing innocent inhabitants. The untamed power of the golem results in random casualties whenever it manifests physically. This revelation causes distress, as this outcome was not the intended result. Discussion turns to Horowitz's complex background, with both the Orana and socialists having interest in him. The father's actions are debated as potentially noble rather than cruel, done for some greater good rather than personal gain. The relationship between the father and Sofer spans years. The conversation moves to the synagogue basement to investigate the golem's origins. The location holds significance as the place where the curse took shape. The process of creating the golem involved clay that absorbed anger, forming a massive figure through hours of sculpting. The search for a solution leads to discussion of finding another thaumaturge and Kabbalist like Sofer. Ariel Rofe is mentioned as a possibility, though there appears to be existing tension that might complicate getting help. The conversation reflects ongoing conflicts between families. A personal reflection on father-son relationships emerges, acknowledging years of mutual distance. The focus shifts to settling scores and repaying debts, while recognizing that anger and pride are poor advisors. Despite warnings, there's a sense that it's too late for change. The scene shifts to a market setting where supernatural elements are present. Descriptions include movement through market stalls and desert-like conditions, suggesting the presence of a jinn, supernatural being from harsh desert lands. A mysterious figure claims to grant unlimited wishes, unlike the traditional 3 wishes of jinns. The conversation turns philosophical when someone requests freedom, leading to discussion about free will and making material rather than abstract wishes. The scene focuses on a desert daisy, noted for surviving harsh conditions. A tense interaction follows between individuals, with one recognizing the other from previous encounters involving flowers and watches, suggesting surveillance or careful observation. The exchange culminates in accusations of theft and manipulation. A complex situation unfolds involving multiple parties, with suggestions of deeper underlying conflicts and truths about to be revealed in an office setting. A tense confrontation occurs with warnings about not returning to a particular location. The scene has an air of finality as someone declares their departure. Someone is tracking a thief who left clear evidence of their presence in the area. The pursuit seems focused and determined. At a desert watering hole, a person named Victor meets Ali, who controls access to the well. After showing proper respect, Ali reveals knowledge about the elusive thief Victor seeks and directs them south toward where washerwomen work. A tense exchange occurs involving someone named Jennifer, who knows a magical password. There are threats about transformation spells and warnings about interference, with class tensions evident in the language used. The scene shifts to a bakery filled with wonderful aromas of vanilla and baked goods. Mrs. Jagoda reunites with Victor, who she remembers as a child admiring her pastries. A customer interrupts their nostalgic moment to collect an order. The setting moves to a flying university lecture about gender inequality and women's rights. The discussion emphasizes how limiting women's education and employment opportunities negatively impacts society and economic growth. The Flying University is revealed to be a secret mobile institution created to educate women despite oppressive restrictions. It moves between various apartments to avoid detection, with notable alumni including Nobel Prize winner Mrs. Skłodowska-Curie. Social interactions at the university reveal tensions between students and concerns about potential informants. Meanwhile, Victor reconnects with his sister Ligia and shares donuts, maintaining their close relationship. A crisis erupts when a bookseller discovers a valuable book called Nation Tale has been stolen. This creates chaos and accusations among the university attendees. Victor is revealed to be a Thaumaturge, someone with magical abilities who might be able to trace the stolen book through emotional residue. While the bookseller Antoni demands justice, others look to Victor for a peaceful resolution. A tense situation unfolds as someone wants to leave early, claiming they need to get to church on time to avoid trouble with their parents. A search is conducted to find a stolen book, with someone offering to check personal items for traces of the thief. The investigation continues as they examine coats in the wardrobe. 3 coats are identified, one belonging to Valdemar with wooden buttons and embroidered initials, one with a worn collar and elbow patches, and another belonging to Miss Lucrezia with satin lining. The mystery begins to unravel as a plot is revealed involving Thaumaturge. The stolen book is recovered and returned. The thief left a note explaining their actions were meant to demonstrate the power and importance of Thaumaturge to the city. It is revealed that Cecilia masterminded the theft by convincing Waldemar to use his father's lockpicks to steal the book while she maintained an alibi. She claims it was necessary to prove Thaumaturge deserves recognition as a legitimate science. A confrontational scene occurs between workers and a passerby, with tensions rising over perceived class differences. The situation escalates from verbal harassment to threats of physical violence when revolutionary slogans are mockingly quoted. A dramatic encounter occurs between Victor Shulsky and someone claiming to be the king of the Temperamancers. They engage in what appears to be a ritual confrontation, with the challenger seeking to reclaim their throne and title. The scene shifts to a meeting with 2 women, Maria and Magdalena, who work for someone named Grigori. They explain they've been waiting for a visitor who has come to see Rasputin. The atmosphere is mysterious and slightly unsettling. The next scene culminates in a meeting with who appears to be Rasputin himself. He welcomes Victor Shulsky as a loyal friend and speaks cryptically about their future plans, mentioning visions filled with blood and scarlet colors. A prophetic vision reveals ominous signs, a falling star causing widespread destruction to religious sites, including St. Mary Magdalene Church in Braga, the Iberian Gate being swallowed, Kazan Cathedral submerged, and Notre Dame engulfed in flames. These omens suggest dark times ahead for the homeland, which is plagued by a devastating illness. The young heir, Alexei Romanov, is gravely ill, with a mysterious ailment described as the devil tearing him apart from within. However, this revelation is seen as potentially positive, since identifying the source of danger means there may be a chance to help heal him, just as others have been healed before. A loyal follower testifies to being saved from losing their mind through miraculous healing. This demonstration of loyalty and gratitude shows the deep impact of these healing abilities on followers. The focus is on helping others and receiving acknowledgement for these acts. The vision expands to encompass a greater purpose, healing not just individuals, but society itself. A future is described where everyone receives equal treatment and respect, free from physical and spiritual afflictions, living in perfect freedom and health. This idealistic vision represents hope for widespread transformation. The scene shifts to a morning-after conversation about questionable events from the previous night. Someone is being advised to pull themselves together, with sleep being dismissed as a waste of time. The exact details remain unclear due to memory issues. A discussion reveals intentions of forming mutually beneficial friendships and alliances. Different skills and abilities are highlighted as complementary. However, there are hints of political maneuvering, with mentions of varying levels of support from different factions. Analysis of key relationships reveals complex dynamics. Magdalena is described as naive and genuinely in love, while Maria is portrayed as calculating and seeking advancement. These relationships are accepted pragmatically, with loyalty being valued above pure devotion. A conversation with a religious figure reveals tension between faith and skepticism. The discussion touches on exorcism and demons, with both parties carefully probing each other's beliefs and motivations. There is an underlying sense of mutual assessment and wariness. The conversation turns to Grigory Rasputin, who is remembered as a charlatan seeking protection while posing as a great preacher. The religious figure expresses strong disapproval, suggesting that merely discussing Rasputin is sinful. The exchange reveals deep-seated conflicts and suspicions. The narrative becomes more fragmented, with questions about magical abilities and waiting. The tone suggests uncertainty and possibly fatigue or disorientation. The passage of time becomes a prominent theme as characters deal with anticipation and uncertainty. The scene opens with disjointed moments of silence and brief utterances, creating an atmosphere of anticipation and uncertainty. The fragmented nature of the initial exchanges suggests hesitation or careful observation of surroundings. A casual interaction occurs at Mrs. Yagoda's shop, where someone stops by to look at cookies. Mrs. Yagoda makes a subtle comment about how the visitor should consider making a purchase instead of just browsing, indicating a familiar but slightly tense relationship. The conversation takes a serious turn as discussion focuses on someone named Layla. The interrogator demonstrates detailed knowledge of personal history, mentioning potato dumplings and a checkered blanket used during family conflicts. This shows careful research and strategic use of personal information. Information is revealed about Layla's location at a local establishment called the Harem, though it's clarified she isn't employed there. This revelation comes after persistent questioning and emotional manipulation using childhood memories. The scene shifts to the mentioned location, where multiple characters interact. A tense exchange occurs between Victor and others, with undertones of suspicion and territorial behavior. The atmosphere suggests this is a complex social environment with established hierarchies. The discussion evolves into a complex negotiation about business arrangements and personal history. References to someone called Tweezer indicate a business relationship that provides comfort and stability, though possibly with questionable aspects. Concerns are raised about the welfare of certain individuals after recent events. The conversation reveals tensions between different social groups and hints at past violence or conflicts. The dialogue touches on historical events from May, referred to as the Pimpleaching, suggesting significant social unrest. Discussion includes references to survival strategies and complex relationships with authorities. A peculiar situation unfolds at what appears to be an establishment where someone discovers Layla has been secretly taking money from a safe. Through supernatural abilities, they learned that Layla had memorized the safe combination and had been carefully stealing small amounts to avoid detection. The confrontation escalates when Layla threatens to expose illegal activities to authorities. The tense situation reaches a resolution, though not a particularly satisfying one. Someone expresses wanting to leave and return to their brother. Despite looking unwell, they insist they will be fine and are encouraged to rest. A new scene begins where someone seeks help again, promising not to refuse assistance this time. The conversation reveals the presence of a powerful jinn, a supernatural being capable of granting wishes. There is urgency to focus on making wishes before potential danger occurs. The discussion turns to investigating multiple people, including someone described as a candy lover and coffee lover. Konichkin appears to be significant, while Mr. Sweet Tooth is revealed to have died before another key figure. The conversation mentions helping rebels and revolutionaries who cannot access normal hospitals. Some guards or watchers express frustration about their low-paying job, following people around and conducting surveillance. They feel the compensation is inadequate for the tedious work and decide to speak with their superior about it. The scene shifts to a mysterious interaction at what seems to be a shop or cafe. Someone attempts to order a donut, but is told none are available. This appears to be some kind of code or secret meeting place. A private conversation is requested, highlighting the clandestine nature of their meeting. A tense exchange occurs, showing deep mistrust between the parties. They discuss someone with connections in high places who managed to get out of custody quickly. The conversation reveals revolutionary undertones with mentions of overthrowing systems of power and radical views. The search for a specific doctor, who's also a Thaumaturge, magic practitioner, treating people with radical views becomes the focus. Those involved are cautious about revealing information about their comrades. A mysterious message involving an onion is meant to be passed to the doctor. The scene opens with tension as someone is determined to protect secrets and maintain control over a situation. There is an air of mystery and determination, with repeated emphasis on not letting certain information get revealed. A heated confrontation occurs between two parties, with one being referred to as a magician. Threats are exchanged about burning someone at the stake, and there's mention of gathering wood. Despite the intimidation, one party insists on proceeding due to being in a hurry. Victor appears distressed about potential consequences from his father regarding their actions. The discussion reveals family honor and money are at stake, specifically mentioning the Shosky family. A new plan is proposed that doesn't involve Sataniswaf, though details remain unclear. A reflective moment occurs discussing past events involving Neshko Zetsamin, who is described as a scoundrel. The conversation explores themes of guilt, pride, and personal growth, with one party acknowledging how past events shaped their current identity. The conversation shifts to a poetic exchange about workers striking in Shrodemishche. The discussion takes a dark turn with mentions of violence, though one party insists workers deserve respect. There is tension between artistic expression and serious matters. The situation with the sewers is explained. Workers hired by Neumeier have gone on strike after some were fired. The construction project is now stalled, causing problems in the neighborhood. Someone offers to mediate the situation. The scene moves to a bar where fired workers are drinking and discussing Neumeier. The mood is tense and hostile, with workers expressing anger through rough language and reluctance to engage with outsiders asking questions. A confrontation unfolds between Mr. Neumeier and his workers. The workers demand reinstatement of fired colleagues and threaten to abandon the sewer project entirely. The exchange becomes heated with accusations of poor capitalism and management. A heated discussion begins about workplace aggression, specifically regarding someone who vandalized office windows. The incident caused a terrible smell, and while there is no concrete proof, there are strong suspicions about who committed the act. The conversation shifts to worker strikes that erupted after employees who drank at work were fired. There are cultural tensions between German work standards prohibiting alcohol and local practices. The discussion suggests resistance to modernizing workplace policies. The dialogue explores how Neumeier handled the situation. Rather than finding a compromise, his strict German management style created conflict with workers. Multiple people seem interested in discussing this situation, though some prefer more private conversations. Workers express strong opposition to the layoffs, seeing them as unjust. They argue the drinking policy is just a cover for other issues. The workers have united in solidarity, refusing to work until their fired colleagues are reinstated. Background information is shared about Wolfgang Neumeier, born 1858, runs local branch of family business. Despite reputation as successful, recent events suggest otherwise. The striking workers have powerful personal stories and are determined to prevail. A breakthrough occurs in the labor dispute. Neumeier agrees to a solution, allowing workers to return. It is revealed he sold a valuable horse to fund rehiring the dismissed workers, though this generous gesture may not have been entirely voluntary. The scene shifts to a confrontation where someone is searching for Ariel Ruffer. After proving their connection to Shrewd Mesh, they negotiate terms through a physical altercation. If victorious, they will learn Ariel's location. The search leads to what appears to be a butcher's shop, though it's suggested it's actually a front for illegal alcohol. Despite aggressive resistance from guards, the searcher persists, leveraging their connection to Shrewd Meester and knowledge of police bribes to gain access. In this enigmatic opening scene, there is uncertainty and hesitation expressed through fragmented thoughts and pauses, setting up a tense atmosphere for what is to come. The repetitive use of pauses and brief statements creates a sense of unease and anticipation. The scene shifts to what appears to be a butcher's shop that serves as a front for something more secretive. There is tension as threats are made about shooting if any suspicious activity occurs. Someone is told to sit down and explain their presence, particularly regarding how they located this hidden spot. A discussion ensues about a character called Ogurus, known for a distinctive physical condition. The conversation then moves to the main purpose of the meeting. Someone needs help dealing with a golem, a magical clay creature, and requires specialized Kabbalistic knowledge to handle it. The nature of the golem is explained. It is described as a salutor, spiritual entity, in physical form that follows both blood connections and character flaws. To defeat it, one must first remove its clay shell, which requires a specialist, and the ritual must be performed at the original summoning location. The focus shifts to a conversation about stopping the golem. A discussion about flaws and their significance takes place between siblings. The sister reveals her primary flaw relates to ambition and desire for respect in her work, which becomes crucial to their plan. The scene moves to a basement meeting where key characters gather for the ritual. Ariel Rofer meets Ligia Schulska, and preparations are made involving candles and specific placement. The atmosphere is tense as they prepare to use Ligia's flaw to lure the golem. The ritual begins with traditional incantations and careful preparations. The process involves extracting Ligia's flaw, which is tied to her ambition. Despite some uncertainty, she agrees to the procedure, trusting her sibling but remaining wary of others involved. After the ritual, Ligia wakes up disoriented, curious about what happened, and particularly interested in Rofer. The siblings discuss the outcome. The golem will no longer pursue them but will instead serve Rofer, as per their agreement. The sister seems accepting of this resolution, though questions arise about not being consulted on the deal specifics. A tense conversation unfolds about blood near an entrance. The dialogue shifts to discussing an upcoming job reminiscent of old times involving dealing with some thugs. This sets up the main conflict and establishes a history between the characters. Details emerge about a conflict with someone named Kafar from Rujits, who seized a person named Max over alleged debts. The situation has created bad blood between rival groups, leading to plans for confrontation. The scene shifts to a nostalgic description of a marketplace with vivid details about fishwives, longshoremen, and personal memories. The location of the target is identified in a southeastern shack, with plans being made to lock down the area. The confrontation is framed as a sentimental journey, comparing current events to past encounters with the leader of 40 Thieves. The mood is notably upbeat despite the impending conflict. A heated confrontation breaks out with local authorities, featuring tense exchanges and escalating threats. The situation quickly turns physical as both sides engage in combat. The climactic confrontation with Kafar occurs, involving intense negotiations and threats. The situation deteriorates into violence when peaceful resolution attempts fail. The conflict resolves with Kafar backing down. The victors claim a bottle of alcohol as their prize and prepare to depart, marking their successful mission. The aftermath features reflection on their actions, with discussion about justice and past events. Personal histories are revealed, including family conflicts and protective actions by father figures. A conversation takes place about fishing by a river. Someone is issued a 5-ruble fine, likely for illegal fishing. The person pays the fine and receives advice about proper fishing technique, specifically about hooking and cooking fish. A discussion begins about a violent attack at Vienna Station. Multiple civilians were killed in a bloody incident. A group called the Lashits claimed responsibility. The Russians assigned Zhukov to investigate. Someone wants to write an article about the truth behind the attack and seeks help investigating. The writer reveals they publish under the pseudonym Kimichits in underground patriotic publications. They discuss suspicious aspects of the attack, including that the victim list is classified but believed to be random Polish civilians, which seems odd given the Lashits claim to be patriots. A conversation occurs about getting access to investigate the attack site. Someone needs official passes and stamps. They discuss previous cases involving Pietya and the Krievskis. The scene suggests someone attempting to gain unauthorized access to restricted materials. The Lechites are discussed further. Their manifesto and methods are criticized as amateurish attention-seeking. Someone is trying to locate the group and promises to share information if they find them. At the station, guards explain there was a bombing attack by Lechite terrorists that caused multiple casualties. Access is restricted due to an ongoing investigation, with Detective Zhukov expected to visit. A discussion about investigation methods references the 1888 London case. Someone offers to help find the attackers, mentioning a Thaumaturge will take a week to arrive in Warsaw. The cooperation is described as unofficial and must remain secret. The investigation moves to a hospital where survivors are being treated. A patient named Stefania Lipnitska is confirmed dead from the attack. Another young survivor lost her eyesight in the incident and witnessed her mother's death before losing consciousness. An injured survivor in the hospital is questioned about the attack, but refuses to provide information, claiming they either don't remember or won't speak about it, even if it costs their life. The patient appears to be under morphine for pain management. A tense confrontation unfolded where someone was accused of being consumed by a desire to prove themselves to an idol figure. The discussion revealed that Zhukov, described as an exceptional investigator, may have been present in disguise. This led to an invitation to look around the area. Someone seeking career advice received wisdom about the importance of conscientiousness. The mentor figure saw potential in the mentee and shared this ancient knowledge. While maintaining their presence, there should remain secret. A touching scene occurred involving a teddy bear being brought for a child who had lost both her mother and eyesight in a tragic incident. The child was reported to be sleeping more calmly, but had been crying for her mother and teddy bear. The last image she saw was of her mother's death. A conversation about media coverage revealed plans to publish stories in Polish underground newspapers. Someone named Kmeritz was eager to write about heroes fighting against occupiers. The discussion showed careful negotiation about when and where to meet for sharing these stories. A scene in a nice house with a housekeeper named Grzynkha unfolded. A young lady visitor made ominous comments about revolution and destruction. There was mysterious damage that needed to be swept up before anyone could see it. A discussion about Berg Rodbys Cafe revealed it as one of many meeting places for a select group. The location was described as having decent beer and friendly staff, though there were hints of deeper significance to the venue. At a flying university meeting, there was a discussion about lectures on women's economic issues. The illegal university was described as being originally focused on women's education, but now accepted male students too. A request was made for someone to give a lecture on Thaumaturge. The final lecture began, promising to reveal secrets about power that exist between science and magic. The speaker displayed items including an ancient African mask with connections to Slavic deities. The discussion touched on supernatural beings called saluters, whose origins remain mysterious. There's a discussion about mysterious beings that have always coexisted with humans, though the rules governing this relationship remain unclear. The conversation moves on to examine objects that can hold memories and information, like a father's comb that reveals his frustration with baldness. This introduces the concept of objects retaining memories and impressions. The discussion shifts to a practical demonstration involving a coin experiment. A participant named Mr. Zilia provides a coin which reveals his excitement or nervousness about the experiment. This demonstrates the Thaumaturge skill of perception, the ability to read hidden information inscribed in objects. The process requires someone to first inscribe information into an item before it can be perceived. The lesson concludes due to safety considerations for both students and hosts. A private conversation follows between Mr. Shulsky and another individual, where they discuss discovering new talents. The interaction ends with expressions of gratitude and caution about future meetings. A journalist waits patiently for information about an upcoming interview. They receive details about Christian Krull, who survived his own bomb explosion and is now in Praga hospital. The conversation reveals tensions between socialists and another group called Bella Heights. Additional information is shared about Isabella Lipnitska, who lost her eyesight in an attack. A tense meeting occurs with the La Heights group, discussing their motivations for an attack meant to target perceived traitors to Poland. The interview becomes heated when discussing differences between their group and socialists. Suddenly, police arrive, but rather than making arrests, they appear to have more sinister intentions. A confrontational scene unfolds involving some tough guys hassling someone about directions to Albuquerque. The situation escalates into a physical altercation, with one person taking on 3 opponents. This leads to an introduction between Walter Pinkman and Victor Shulsky, who share a brief exchange about Albuquerque after the confrontation. A mysterious encounter occurs involving someone who detects an evil presence with a sulfuric smell. They identify someone named Skal and express concern about others being led astray. An investigation takes place involving someone trapped or hidden. Using a tap communication system, 2 taps for yes, 1 for no, questions are asked about their identity, duration of captivity, and connection to various groups, including socialists and local thugs. The scene ends with discussion of a stolen arms shipment and a captured gendarme. A tense confrontation unfolds between several people, with Edek appearing to be the leader of a group holding someone captive. There is clear tension and conflict between Yamio and Edek, with Yamio expressing doubts about their actions. Edek shows signs of being controlling and manipulative towards the others. Details emerge about a major arms heist that was apparently carried out by the group. The robbery seemed to happen by chance when Edek and others were drinking. Through manipulation and persuasion, Edek convinced guards to evacuate, allowing them to steal a weapons shipment from a barge. A turning point occurs when someone named Lihotsky successfully outmaneuvers the group. It becomes clear that if Edek distributes the stolen weapons, there could be massive bloodshed. The situation is complicated by police forces surrounding the harbor area. Tensions escalate as confrontations begin between the group and authorities. Edek rallies people with inflammatory speeches about taking control of the harbor and eventually all of Warsaw. His demagoguery intensifies the situation as he promises grand revolutionary outcomes. The situation reaches its climax with authorities demanding the crowd disperse to avoid another Red Sunday incident. Despite Edek's continued provocations, the confrontation ends without casualties. The authorities plan to process the participants but focus particularly on Edek as the ringleader. The aftermath involves someone seeking help regarding a difficult situation, possibly supernatural in nature. References are made to someone named Rasputino, suggesting connections to broader historical or mystical elements at play. The conclusion reveals an interaction with someone named Emir Bernakovich Fulgi, who takes an unusually polite approach compared to others. This person confirms dealing with some unnamed others and expresses gratitude for an onion, suggesting an unusual resolution to the earlier conflicts. An intriguing conversation begins with a mysterious invitation inscribed on an onion. A healer and fortune teller, known as a Thatar or Thaumaturge, is consulted about a missing black grimoire that disappeared after someone's father died. The discussion reveals there may be hidden motives behind this meeting. The scene shifts to a profound discussion between Victor and Grigory Rasputin at a boundary between two worlds. Their conversation explores complex themes of identity, with Rasputin revealing his mission to save the Tsarevich and gain influence at the Romanov court. He positions himself as a devoted follower of Christ with a divine purpose. The dialogue delves into Rasputin's activities at the Church of St. Mary Magdalene and his connection to someone named Lazarus. Questions arise about Rasputin's reputation and controversial lifestyle. He defends himself against rumors and criticisms, suggesting they come from unreliable sources like the Petersburg Okhrana. Rasputin makes it clear that refusing to help him would have serious consequences. He frames his mission as crucial for the future and the reputation of all thaumaturges. The conversation concludes with Victor agreeing to join Rasputin's cause, marking a point of no return in their alliance. The scene transitions to a church where Patriarch Kirill is preparing for an exorcism. Rasputin reveals his plan to perform a miracle healing to enhance his reputation. He wants to demonstrate his powers are superior to Kirill's, though he claims revenge isn't his motivation. A tense situation unfolds involving a troubled boy brought to the church by his mother. The boy is described as having problems with phantoms and lying. The atmosphere grows increasingly charged as different parties debate how to help the child. The situation reaches its climax as Victor discovers the boy carries the flaw. Rasputin and Victor discuss intervention, while a confrontation erupts between different approaches to helping the child. The boy becomes increasingly distressed as various adults argue over the best course of action. A deep conversation unfolds about seeing ghosts and supernatural abilities. Someone confides in their mother and priest about their experiences, worried about going to hell. They learn that God isn't against them. Rather, it's regular people who fear what they don't understand. This creates a tense atmosphere of misunderstanding and judgment. A comforting discussion takes place about having special abilities to see things others can't see. Someone is reassured that this is normal and they shouldn't be afraid. They are told a helpful spirit will find them soon and they will never be alone again. The conversation ends with words of encouragement and luck. A healing scene occurs with someone named Shimon, who shares his name with a biblical apostle. The situation involves accusations of blasphemy and discussions of Satan. A passionate speech explains that evil exists, but not in the innocent boy who is just healed. There are warnings about evil threatening their homeland. A confrontational scene develops involving multiple people. Some are taken into custody and brought to a citadel, a place known to be inescapable. A person named Vanda is mentioned as someone who might help them escape. The detainees are instructed to claim they were just at Mass and know nothing else. The situation in the church is explained. A boy at an exorcism was identified as a Thaumaturge, someone with magical abilities. A discussion follows about missed opportunities and regrets. A young detainee under 16 needs to be freed, and promises are made to help. Personal stories are shared between detainees about their backgrounds. One lives with their grandfather who fought in an uprising. Another lost their father to whooping cough from factory work. A story emerges about a past incident involving a loan shark that ended badly, forcing someone to leave home. An intense interrogation scene unfolds. The interrogator claims to know everything from reading objects. They demand information about church activities and associates. A mental battle begins between the interrogator and detainee, with neither side willing to give ground. Past relationships and betrayals are discussed, including mentions of someone named Sophia. Someone was hired by Skowan with promises of forgiveness for past sins. A daring escape plan is proposed with conditions including retrieving a grimoire from Kanichkin's study. The escape plan is put into action. Someone must hold off Kanichkin while another retrieves the grimoire from his study 2 floors up. Time is limited and tension builds as the plan unfolds. The situation becomes chaotic when a guard discovers them, angering Kanichkin. A group is planning their escape through a gate. Someone needs time to regain composure before they proceed. They have confirmation that people are watching the citadel and will pick them up once they get out. Before leaving, one person insists on retrieving a cellmate, despite objections about getting lost. They agree to split up. One will secure the passage to the gate, while the other retrieves the cellmate. Someone gets caught while apparently being lost and asking for directions to the citadel. Guards realize they are not local and order them to be grabbed, along with others in the barracks. There is a reunion with Vanda, though Miha appears to be missing. Some people manage to escape thanks to someone's help. They are urged to move quickly. The group arrives at a safe location and is welcomed inside. They are told no one should be alone during this difficult time. News spreads that Mahal was killed, though someone suggests he is not altogether lost. Some head upstairs to rest, while others have matters to attend to. Madame Samira welcomes everyone and offers tea. She is revealed to be a Thaumaturge, magic user, that Victor had mentioned. While there is initial wariness, trust is established enough to proceed with their plans. The gravity of their situation is discussed. They are in a precarious position with limited time and high stakes. They possess a black grimoire that contains hidden meanings they are trying to decipher. There is discussion of combining their powers through a mental bond theory developed by Stanisław Szulski. The group discusses the threats they face, ranging from detention and interrogation to execution. They determine their best chance lies in combining their individual powers through a pact that could have far-reaching consequences across Russia and Europe. They identify the need for a fourth member for their pact, discussing Ariel Ruffer as a potential candidate despite some concerns about his reputation. Someone offers to find him in the Miruf district or Bazaar area, citing that he owes them a favor. A tense encounter occurs with military officers checking documents. They are searching for a terrorist and fugitive from the Citadel. The person being questioned is identified as a magician named Shio Harsho, but is allowed to proceed after showing papers. A religious figure discusses events at a church involving bloodshed, claiming it was God's will and that an innocent soul was saved. The conversation reveals tensions about loyalty and past imprisonment in the Citadel. The meeting involves discussion of paradise and promises of fulfilled desires. A tense conversation begins between two individuals discussing a request for help in reviving an old concept. One person expresses their desire to part ways and pursue different visions for the future with other Thaumaturges, maintaining honesty in their departure. The scene shifts dramatically as someone experiences confusion about their surroundings, questioning if they are in hell. Past memories surface about classroom experiences and family dynamics, with mentions of respect and mortality. A trial scenario unfolds where the individual learns they must face judgment before potentially going to hell. The trial focuses on examining the conscience of Viktor Szulski, particularly regarding his identity as a Thaumaturge and his family legacy. The trial delves deeper into personal relationships, specifically addressing the connection with a twin sister who showed kindness despite lacking magical abilities. Questions arise about future plans and the impact on family bonds. The verdict of not guilty is delivered, but with the caveat that the story isn't over. Discussion turns to future paths, including mentions of Rasputin and the coterie. The trial figure reveals itself as an embodiment of pride, conscience, and doubts. The scene transitions to a more immediate reality where someone is startled by another's presence. They discuss recent events, including street violence and safety concerns. A mysterious letter about a paradise garden becomes a topic of interest. Details emerge about an escape from the Citadel and the chaotic state of the city, which has been ongoing for 3 days. The conversation reveals its length the last day of summer, with personal concerns about family members' safety being expressed. A dramatic confrontation occurs as authorities arrive to make an arrest, citing charges of conspiracy against the Tsar and terrorism. The situation escalates with threats and tension between the parties involved. A somber scene unfolds as blood seeps into stone, marking what appears to be an unusual birthday celebration. The atmosphere is tense and heavy with significance. A cleaning task lies ahead, requiring a shovel, suggesting something serious has occurred that needs to be dealt with discreetly. The conversation turns to future plans and possibilities. There is discussion of breaking free from current circumstances, including potential escape from Warsaw. The idea of leaving behind Rasputin and the coterie is considered, with hopes of convincing Legia to join in this departure for a fresh start elsewhere. A dramatic revelation emerges about Nijit's murder of the Orana chief in the hallway, an act that saved lives but complicates matters. The conversation shifts to concrete escape plans, with Paris suggested as a potential destination. The store is dismissed as replaceable, showing determination to leave everything behind. Plans for departure become more concrete, though with warnings about avoiding train stations. Nijit's assistance is deemed necessary for a successful escape. The mood shifts between practical planning and emotional farewells, with recognition that unexpected alliances have formed through these events. Deeper reflections emerge about personal values and choices, particularly regarding father-child relationships. The true story behind the Warsaw Orana chief's disappearance becomes street legend, with Nijic emerging as the new king of Siódmieście. Meanwhile, Warsaw descends into revolutionary chaos. The city falls into turmoil, with socialist militants attacking revolution opponents. The mysterious fisherman of Bovichna remains at large, while bodies continue appearing on riverbanks. The Flying University movement collapses as rebellious students face imprisonment. The story concludes with hints at new adventures ahead.